Right now, in the northwestern corner of Saudi Arabia, thousands of workers are racing to build what could either become humanity's greatest architectural achievement or its most expensive failure. A $1 trillion mirror-wrapped city stretching 170 kilometers across the desert, designed to house 9 million people inside a structure taller than the Empire State Building, but only 200 meters wide. A city with no cars, no streets, and no carbon emissions. A city that costs more than the GDP of Austria to build. This is the Line, potentially the most ambitious or the most insane megaproject in human history. In July 2021, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman unveiled plans for something that seemed to defy reality itself. A linear city called the Line, part of the larger NEOM project, a $500 billion bid to transform a piece of desert the size of Belgium into the world's most advanced civilization. But to understand why Saudi Arabia is attempting to build something this ambitious, we need to wind the clock back to 2015. Oil prices had just crashed from over $100 per barrel to less than $50, shocking the Saudi economy. For a country that derived nearly 80% of its budget revenues from oil, this was nothing short of an economic earthquake. That's when Mohammed bin Salman, then the Deputy Crown Prince, who would soon become the kingdom's de facto ruler, came into play. Young, ambitious, and determined to transform his country, he looked at Saudi Arabia's future and saw a ticking time bomb. The kingdom's population was exploding, with more than 60% of Saudis under the age of 30. Oil revenues alone couldn't sustain the country's future needs. Something had to change. So, in 2016, bin Salman unveiled Vision 2030, an ambitious plan to completely restructure the Saudi economy. But he needed something big, something unprecedented, to serve as the cornerstone of this transformation. This is when NEOM was born. The name itself tells us a lot about the project's ambitions. Neo comes from the Greek word for new, while the M stands for mustaqbal, the Arabic word for future. NEOM was conceived as a blank slate, a place where Saudi Arabia could build its dreams without the constraints of existing infrastructure or traditional ways of thinking. But why build it in the northwest corner of Saudi Arabia, in one of the most inhospitable regions of the country? The location wasn't chosen by accident. This area, known as the Tabuk region, sits at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe. It borders the Red Sea, through which roughly 12% of global trade passes. It's also one of the few places in Saudi Arabia with a relatively moderate climate, thanks to its coastal location and higher elevation. The original NEOM announcement in 2017 was grand enough. A $500 billion city powered by renewable energy, with flying taxis, robot workers, and an artificial moon. But the Line, unveiled in 2021, took these ambitions to an entirely new level. To be specific, at the $1 trillion level. But to truly understand the scale of this project's ambition, or perhaps its madness, we need to put these numbers into perspective. The Line isn't just big, it's unprecedented. Those mirrored walls? They're designed to be 500 meters high. And to put that in context, if you stood the Statue of Liberty on top of the Empire State Building, the Line would still tower above them both. What's more, this linear city is designed to house 9 million people between these two parallel skyscrapers. Now, this concept didn't come out of nowhere. It has a fascinating history dating back to the 1960s, when architects first proposed linear cities as a solution to urban sprawl. The Soviet Union even had plans for a linear city along the Volga River, but nobody had ever attempted anything close to this scale. Sure, the sales pitch is incredible. They promised a city with no cars, no roads, no carbon emissions, a place where you can reach anything you need within a 5-minute walk. Want to travel from one end to the other? A high-speed rail system promises to get you there in just 20 minutes. The design calls for 95% of the land to be preserved for nature. The concept sounds utopian. Artificial intelligence will monitor every aspect of life, from the temperature of your apartment to the freshness of your food. Flying taxis will transport people between levels, vertical farming will provide fresh produce, and all of this will be powered by 100% renewable energy. with water coming from advanced desalination plants. It truly is meant to be a utopia in the desert, a showcase of what human civilization could become if we completely rethought how cities work. Why? Because they're not just building above ground. The plans call for 3 layers, one on the surface for pedestrians and 2 underground layers, one for infrastructure and another for transportation. They're even planning to cut a massive canal through the structure so cruise ships can pass through to a hidden marina. Just so you know, and this is one of the most criticized challenges of this proposal, many of the technologies they're promising don't even exist yet. Not in prototype form, not in testing, not anywhere. They're betting $1 trillion on tech that hasn't been invented. But here's where things start to get really interesting. By 2024, this massive dream started showing cracks. What was supposed to house 1.5 million people by 2030 has been quietly scaled back to just 300,000. The 170-kilometer miracle city? Now they're aiming for just 2.4 kilometers. That's less than 1.5 miles by 2030. Some of the world's most famous architects signed up for the project, and then some walked away. Norman Foster and Francine Houben terminated their participation over human rights and ecological concerns. Others stayed on. David Ajaya, Rem Koolhaas, the firm of the late Zaha Hadid. But here's the interesting part. Every architect had to sign confidentiality agreements. This is why you won't find any mention of the line on their websites. It's like they're building the world's most expensive secret, hiding in plain sight. So, what's happening? Construction on the line began in 2021, with massive excavators carving a huge trench through the desert. The first phase is scheduled for completion in 2030, an ambitious timeline for a project of this scale. To put this in perspective, Dubai's Burj Khalifa, currently the world's tallest building, took 6 years to complete. The line is essentially planning to build something hundreds of times larger in just 9 years. The construction site already stretches for kilometers across the desert, with thousands of workers and hundreds of pieces of heavy machinery working around the clock. Satellite images show a massive gash in the earth where the line will eventually rise, a human-made canyon being carved through the ancient desert. But by early 2024, reality started catching up with the dream. The Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund's cash reserves dropped to their lowest level since 2020, just $15 billion. Foreign investors weren't buying into the vision. Oil prices were fluctuating. That's when the quiet scaling back began. From 1.5 million people, they're now aiming for 300,000. Instead of 170 kilometers, they're focusing on just 2.4 kilometers. Construction workers are being laid off. But even with the scaled-back ambitions, construction is moving forward at a mind-boggling pace. Every week, they're moving about 1 million cubic meters of earth. They've driven thousands of piles into the ground. And by February 2024, they'd moved over 90 million cubic meters of material. The design calls for 135 modules, each 800 meters long and 500 meters tall. Each module is essentially its own neighborhood, connected to create this massive linear city. Leaked photos of the construction confirm all of this. Massive excavators carving through the deserts, creating the foundation for what could either be humanity's greatest achievement or its most expensive mistake. The line might be grabbing all the headlines, but it's actually just one piece of an even more ambitious project called NEOM, a $1.5 trillion effort to transform a piece of the Saudi desert into the future. They're planning an industrial city called Oxagon. Shaped like an octagon, hence the name, Oxagon is designed to be a floating city rising from the waters of the Red Sea. But this isn't just any industrial complex. Saudi Arabia envisions it as the world's first fully automated port and logistics hub, where robots and AI will handle most of the work. Then there's Sindala, where they plan to take a small island in the Red Sea and transform it into what Saudi Arabia hopes will rival the most luxurious resorts in the Maldives or Monaco. We're talking about a place with luxury hotels, a yacht club capable of hosting vessels up to 140 meters long, and some of the most expensive restaurants in the world. And unlike some of NEOM's other projects, which seem decades away, Sindala is scheduled to welcome its first guests in 2024. Actually, it's planned that from October the 25th to the 27th, 2024, the much-anticipated Red Sea Week, which is the biggest yachting event in the Middle East, will kick off the grand opening of Sindala Island. The island will feature 3 luxury hotels with 413 rooms, including 88 villas. There'll be 38 restaurants and a beach club that's being designed to compete with the most exclusive spots in the Mediterranean. The yacht club isn't just any marina. It's being built to accommodate super yachts, with 86 berths for vessels of various sizes. All of this is being constructed on an island that was basically empty just a few years ago. And if everything goes well, they have the highest stakes, planning to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games at a mountain resort called Trojena, in a country that's mostly desert. But Trojena is being built in NEOM's mountainous region, where temperatures can actually drop below freezing in winter. Now, is that enough to host winter sports? Of course not. So they're planning to create artificial snow and year-round ski slopes. Will it work? Well, Saudi Arabia says it will. The truth? We'll have to wait a few more years to see. NEOM has more outlandish projects like these, but the big question is, will they actually come to life? Well, here we are in 2024 with The Line, watching one of the most ambitious construction projects in human history either transform or unravel. The Saudi government insists the project is continuing as planned, but as the scalebacks and delays mount, as the budgets remain unapproved, and as the workers start being sent home, one has to wonder, is this the beginning of the end for humanity's most ambitious construction project? Or just the first challenge in building tomorrow's city today? Only time will tell, but one thing's for certain, The Line has already left its mark on history. Even if it never reaches its full 170-kilometer length, this will be known as Saudi Arabia's trillion-dollar gamble on the future of human civilization. If you found this video interesting, give it a like and subscribe for more. And let me know in the comments, is The Line going to be a complete disaster? Thanks for watching.